First rounds with the Disruptor X, a name straight out of the early 2000s. Yeah, hitting just fine all the way up to 45 with irons. Welcome back everyone. As you probably guessed, we're going over this pistol in my hand right here in today's video. It is the Girsan MC9 T Disruptor X. So there's a lot to that name, and basically what is it? The MC9 series has been around now for years from the folks over at Girsan, and actually has seen very widespread law enforcement adoption in Europe. So it's very popular over there. But basically those pistols all look very similar. The base model has like a 4-inch barrel, but otherwise looks pretty much identical to this. And then the Disruptor X added the threaded barrel, lengthened it a little bit, gave you a little bit longer sight radius, kind of added the lightning cuts and stuff like that, and then also gave you the optics cut slide. So that's what the base pistol is. And basically this was sent out to me by the folks over at Girsan. I actually didn't request it. Normally I do. It just kind of showed up, and I was like, hey guys, do you know that you sent this to me? And they're like, yeah, check it out, let us know what you think. No pressure to do a review or anything like that, but the gun has performed very well, which is why I have decided to bring it in front of all of you. There's a couple cons that we definitely will get to here at the end, but all in all, it's done quite well. So with that, let's kind of start down here at the bottom and work our way through. So one pro of it is the way the magazine relief cut is cut into the frame, right? So it has that little cut out there on each side, so that way if you do get a double feed, you can grip and rip and pull it out like that. However, I don't like the way the actual base plate system here works. Let me explain. So this is obviously a full-size gun. Like I said, a lot of the MC9s out there are basically very similar to this, except cut right here, but otherwise the same. They take the same magazine, and the magazine they chose to use is a standard capacity 17 round magazine, which I am totally good with. However, they don't make it flush fit on the frame. The frame itself is cut for like a 15 round mag, and then they have this sleeve on there, as you guys can see, to actually give you the grip that you get when you purchase or get your purchase there on the frame. The reason I don't like that is because when you go to drop your magazines, if you have large hands like I do, you hit your mag release, and a lot of, like right now, I have hit the mag release and it's not coming out because the magazine right there is catching on the heel of my hand or the palm of my hand, and so it's not letting it come out. So I really do wish that they just extended the frame and then had flat base plate mags, but they don't. So that is going to be one of the cons. However, they are Mechgar mags, which is fantastic, as many of you guys know. These are pretty widely available. Again, the MC9 series has been around for a few years now. Places like, I actually don't think I can say it on YouTube, but there's a lot of places you can pick these up, and they're relatively affordable. They're around the $30 mark for the actual standard capacity magazines. But again, I do wish they would just make the frame a little bit longer and make it fit in. If this was like compact size gun or something like that, then I would kind of get it, but it's not. That is the standard configuration with the 17 round mag. Anyway, continuing on up, the grip on there, kind of standard in terms of texturing. It's fine, it's not gonna slip around on you. However, I do wish it was a little bit more aggressive, both on the front there and on the rear. Now, one funny part, the reason I'm smiling, looking at the back strap there, is that it does come with two back straps. This is the large back strap that I put on there. And you know, like I just mentioned, I have relatively large hands, so that gives me a little bit more space to fill in there, which I do like. However, as it came from the factory, the back strap, the hole where you actually drive the pin through, wasn't completely drilled in. And when I did it, when I was swapping it out, I thought I was like losing my mind because the pin wasn't going through, and I was having to hit it with the hammer way harder than you normally should have to. And it was only then that I actually looked, and in fact, it wasn't drilled all the way through. So I got my drill out, drilled it all the way through, and we were good to go. But that definitely is something that you don't like to see. I like to see it, you know, as it should be from the factory. Controls on the gun are going to be our slide lock and slide lever here, which are very well done. I didn't have any issues accidentally hitting it either way, so we didn't get any false slide locks and we didn't get any failure to lock back, which I definitely dig. Ambidextrous, and our magazine release is reversible. It is not ambidextrous. Again, that is my preferred setup. And before we continue on forward on the frame, we do want to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is the folks over at 1775 Coffee. The folks over at 1775 Coffee actually just dropped a new starter kit, and maybe you've seen that new launches oftentimes sell out, but if you still haven't tried 1775 Coffee yet, this is your shop, because they've just launched their kit and the first drop is limited to just 1,000 units. This starter kit isn't some dinky sampler pack. It's a full-on pack of caffeine freedom, including a bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, a smooth medium roast for strength without bitterness, and a vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy, laser focus, and zero crash. All single origin, small batch, mold free, and toxin free as well. Plus you're also getting a gold spoon clip, because Freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler that says, "I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch." That's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who have been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. So just head over to 1775coffee.com/GNG and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Start your day with a coffee that actually backs what you believe. With that out of the way, let's continue on up the frame. Another sort of con, if you will, that I'm going to point out on this pistol, but it really goes for a ton of pistols. If you guys watch this channel, you will have heard me say this before. The checkering here stops down here at the grip, and up here it's just kind of smooth. But especially with your support hand, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, a lot of the bite that you get into the pistol with your support hand does come in that area, and you definitely would get more if it was textured. So if they do come out with a Gen 2 or something like that, I would definitely like to see more texturing all the way up here and continuing forward up to the dust cover as well. Continuing on to the trigger, so we will make sure that we are clear, which we absolutely are. It has your traditional striker safety on there, that it will not fire unless you pull it, so you can pull as hard as you want, and nothing will happen unless you actually press that safety in. So the take up, it's got some feedback to it. It's not like just nothing pulling in air. So you have some tension, and then you get to a very definitive wall, and then you pull through, and it's a very crisp 6 pounds. So 6 pounds is relatively heavy. Like I said, these are a duty oriented firearm. However, it is extremely crisp. So we'll check our reset. Very good, very tactile, very audible, and you're back on the wall. And as you can see, not a lot of movement, but right at 6 pounds. So in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that trigger for a duty style handgun. And then of course you have your reset once again. No issues at all with the trigger guard. One thing moving on to the trigger guard, I think it would probably be nice if it was a little bit larger. It's roughly the size of a Glock trigger guard, which a lot of people kind of think is, you know, the standard, and I kind of agree with that. However, if you live in a colder climate, sometimes if you're wearing gloves a lot, it would be nice to have it a little bit bigger. And then up front there, we do have serrations on the front of the trigger guard, so if you're someone who likes to do that, then you can grab onto it as you like. Continuing forward to the dust cover, it does have 1913 rails on there, so that way any of the lights, lasers, accessories that you want to run on there, you certainly can do, and you guys have probably seen me doing throughout the video so far. And before we continue on up to the slide and get into that, we're going to talk about takedown real quick. It's exactly what you think it would be on this style of pistol. Basically, you're going to drop your magazine and then rotate this switch down 90 degrees, let it go home, point in a safe direction, pull the trigger, and everything comes off and comes apart just like you would expect. Of note, we do have a striker safety in there, so once again, unless you press that trigger, there is absolutely no way the gun can fire mechanically, which is exactly how you would want it as a shooter of a striker fired gun. So continuing on up to the slide, this one here does have a Cerakote finish both on the barrel as well as on the slide, and that finish on the slide is done over a nitrided finish. So that's a very durable finish. You guys can probably see through photos that we rolled in, there's virtually no wear showing on this gun, and this gun has over 800 rounds through it, as you guys see it right now. So very, very durable finish on there for sure. Continuing on up to the slide, you guys can see it's a scalloped type of slide, so that way getting in and out of holsters is going to be a little bit easier. That's a bonus of it, if you will. And then you'll see that we do have these lightning cuts there all around the front. In my opinion, or my guess, if you will, is that's done simply to make the slide the same weight as the standard MC9, so that way they don't have to change up the recoil spring and things like that, and they have their proven reliability that they expect from the gun, while giving you that longer sight radius as well as the longer barrel. And speaking of the barrel, if we come back here, one thing you'll notice looking at the top of the slide is it does have a loaded chamber indicator. It has that open hole design, which there's pros and cons to. The pro to it is that you can obviously see down in there and see the brass if you have a round in the chamber. The con of it, particularly on an optics ready gun like we have here, is that if you are running an optic with that style of chamber indicator, it absolutely will kick more carbon back on your optic than it would with a different type of system for a loaded chamber indicator. Continuing back to that optics cut, let's talk about it. So this is going to be one of the cons of the gun for sure. As it sits right now, it has 3-dot white sights on there. Nothing wrong with that in my opinion. It's just fine. However, when you go to actually remove your plate to mount an optic, you will remove your rear sight. Now, I know from feedback of viewers here on the channel, a lot of you actually prefer that and don't want to have a co-witness sight setup. However, for me, that is absolutely not my preference. I like to have backups because everything fails, at least in my experience anyway. Eventually it will fail. But when I went to remove this and install a couple different optics, one thing I found out that was actually interesting is that this is RMS pattern cut, not RMS-C pattern cut. And I think every micro optic or mini optic I have is RMS-C. So I went to mount it on there and tried 2 different SIG optics, a Vortex CCW Defender, as well as the O-Sight. And none of them would fit on there because of that RMS versus RMS-C. And from what I understand, kind of going the other way, it always works, but going to RMS-C to RMS, it doesn't always work. And in this case, that's what we found. I actually reached back out to the folks at Girsan who sent this to me and asked them about it, and they actually rewrote the text on their website because it actually said RMS, RMS-C, and they changed it to just RMS because of what we found out there. So there definitely are plenty of RMS optics out there that will fit it. I just don't have any. So that is an improve, if you will. In America anyway, most of the RMS, RMS-C optics that are used here are RMS-C. So I think that would be a much more universal mounting solution, again, if they make a Gen 2 of this gun. And as we continue rearward on the gun, you'll see that we do have a striker indicator there on the rear. So if you guys see that striker indicator, that means that, of course, the striker is cocked, pre-cocked, I should say. And then when you press the trigger, you'll see there, it does go away. And another thing I wanted to mention in terms of the slide was going to be the serrations. So especially because it is an optics cut gun, a lot of folks are going to want to manipulate the slide from the front, whether you do it from above or below. And the serrations there up front are actually quite grippy in my opinion, but they're small because of the scalloped out nature of the slide. Of course, they do that to make the mass of the slide the ideal weight that they want it to be, but it does hinder your ability to run it from the slide up front, depending on the conditions. You know, if your hands are really sweaty or something like that, you definitely could miss it. Back here on the rear, there's plenty to grab onto, but again, if you have that optic on there, if I had an optic on there, I personally would manipulate it with the optic, just due to the way those serrations are up front. I don't know that I would count on them in an emergency, if you will. And with that, I think I've covered all the features of the gun with one exception. That, of course, is going to be the barrel. It's just over 5 inches, cold hammer forged, has a nice wide feed ramp, as you would expect for a duty style gun. We've had 0 issues feeding hollow points. We used 115 grain S&B as well as 147 grain Fiocchi, and again, it ate them all up just fine. Those were, of course, courtesy of our friends over at Firearms Depot, but the majority of the ammo that we put through this gun has been 124 grain Minuteman munitions from our friends at Minuteman, who have been our 9mm ammo sponsor now for almost 10 years, which is crazy to say, but is true. And like I mentioned in the beginning, 0 malfunctions of any kind out of this gun. So that is why I'm bringing it to you guys here. Otherwise, if it was unreliable and had those little quirks that we've talked about so far, I would have just left it in the gun case and not brought it out for the review. But having 0 malfunctions on a gun that has a decent feature set is a good thing, in my opinion, particularly at the price point. So the price point on this, of course, on YouTube, if you guys are watching, we can't mention price anymore. They say that means we're trying to sell guns, which I'm certainly not. But roughly, it's going to be right around 400 units of measure, depending on where you live, and of course, what your units of measure are. Now, it's going to be plus or minus $50 depending on a sale. Now, the regular MC9s are going to be about $50 less than that, again, depending on where you are. So you get the added features, if you will, of the optics cut as well as the threaded barrel. One thing I didn't mention, speaking of that threaded barrel, in terms of reliability, is that we ran this gun suppressed probably about 1/3 of the time, and had zero malfunction suppressed, which that is relatively difficult to do. Anybody who's tried to run suppressed pistols knows that with different types of ammo, it ate it all up just fine. So that really is another quiver in its case, if you will. So yeah, ran reliable, has a decent trigger. It has a 1911 grip angle. So if you like guns that point with that grip angle, then it's definitely going to be one that I think you might want to look at if you're looking at a gun in this price point. That said, this price point is so competitive right now. 2025, 100% is a gun buyer's market for sure. There's a lot of great options, but this one, despite the few things I said that I would improve for Gen 2, is a very good gun. Again, reliability is paramount in my opinion, and this one definitely has it, and has a decent trigger, has decent sights, all of those sorts of things. So is it for you? I don't know. It's up to you guys to decide, but mine performed well. So that's really all I have to tell you. If you guys have any questions about it, you can always post those questions down below in the comments section. If you like this type of video and you want to see more of it, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you've hit the subscribe button and you're still not seeing 2 to 4 videos a week here on the channel, then you are being censored by an algorithm. Easy way around that is to sign up for the email at the website here on your screen. This will get you put on 2 different email lists. It'll get you put on the email that goes out once a month, and that email only has all of my videos since the previous month's email went out, so that way there's no algorithm censoring your eyes from my content. It'll also get you put on the daily deals email. That email goes out pretty much every day and has 8 to 10 of the best deals that we find around the internet. So if this gun, this ammo, optics that are RMS pattern, or RMSC for that matter, are on there, lights, lasers, all of those sorts of things, if it is in the email on a given day, it's the cheapest that I know of anywhere for that item, because I've done the price comparison for you. So that way it saves you guys some time, because I've already done the looking, and saves you guys some money as well. Additionally, we have an SMS list that you guys can sign up for if you don't want email. You can sign up for that at the website here on your screen, and that goes out at most once a day, and it has either the best deal that we found around the internet for a piece of gear, gun, optics, etc., or it'll have a link to a new video that just dropped, once again circumventing the algorithm, letting you guys actually see my content. And with that, that's pretty much all I got for you. Thank you all for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing everybody in the next video.
You